Hello everyone, welcome to my short for BCM390. The theory that I've decided to focus on for this video is Satyagraha and what it means to perform an act of Satyagraha. To do this, first we will delve a bit deeper into it and what it means, then we will focus on an iconic image seen around the world which illustrates the use of non-violent action to resist those abusing their power. So, Satyagraha, what is it? Satyagraha is a peaceful way of protesting against something which is felt to be unjust. However, Satyagraha is not the same as peaceful or non-violent protests, but they are aspects within it. Satyagraha is more of a state of mind and way of life. It's a greater commitment than simply not punching the opposition in the face. Mahatma Gandhi founded Satyagraha, which roughly translates to the insistence on truth, in the early 20th century. The name Satyagraha was coined as a result of a competition held by South African newspaper Indian Opinion, although the winning applicant's entry was slightly altered by Gandhi. Satyagraha calls on its followers, known as Satyagrahis, to abide by a number of principles in order for them to be fully known as a follower of Satyagraha. The guidelines that Gandhi developed have no room for violence and hatred and requires the devotee to love all. As Gandhi's book, Some Rules for Satyagraha, says, "Love does not burn others, it burns itself." Within this same book, Gandhi lists the principles to follow for Satyagraha. One of the most well-known peaceful protests that satisfied Satyagraha was the Salt March, led by Mahatma Gandhi in 1930. It was a march that went for 385 kilometres to Dandi in order to protest British rule in India, in particular the way Indians were forced to buy expensive imported salt from the British, who were at the same time exploiting the lucrative business of salt production in India. So, now we know what Satyagraha is and what it looks like. We can now see whether one of the most recognisable pictures of standing up for what is right without the use of violence can be considered an act of Satyagraha. This image is taken from a video shot on June 5, 1989, a day after the Tiananmen Square massacre. The man seen in the image is confronting a row of 17 tanks just a few streets away from where the massacre happened. Armed with only his shopping, he moves left and right to halt their progress as they try to go around him and eventually climbs up on the leading tank. According to witness reports published in Time magazine, once he is face to face with the driver, he asks, "Why are you here? My city is in chaos because of you." He then climbs down and is surrounded by civilians to keep him safe. To this day, no one knows for certain who this man was and whether or not he was killed or prosecuted for his actions. The way that this unknown man stood up to those abusing their power is without doubt one of the most courageous acts in recent memory. It would not seem out of place if it were Gandhi standing there instead of an unknown civilian. This act is reminiscent of what Gandhi did in order to stand up for what is right. There is one particular incident which can have comparisons drawn to what the unknown man did. Whilst in South Africa practicing as a lawyer, Gandhi was discriminated against whilst on a train for not being white. He sat on a carriage which was designated for whites only, and when told to move he did not, and was eventually arrested. His actions on the train and the unknown civilians are similar. Both men were making a stand for what was right. They did not shy away from those who were in power, even though they had the ability to cause them considerable harm or even kill them with few repercussions to be faced. Another, perhaps more crucial point in terms of Satyagraha is that neither man acted violently or aggressively towards those causing the suffering of their people. Gandhi's actions were without doubt an act of Satyagraha, and the unknown man's actions have a strong case for being considered so as well. Another way we can try to ascertain if this man's actions can be considered an act of Satyagraha is to revisit the principles and apply them to the way he carried himself. As a number of the principles of Satyagraha do not apply to this scenario, we can tick them off and count them as satisfied. Then, through research and examining the image and videos, we see that the man adhered to the majority of the criteria for Satyagraha. However, there is one principle that we will never know whether it was satisfied or not, and that is whether the unknown rebel held anger in his heart towards those he stood against. The smart money would say he did, but the only person who can say for sure is the man in the image. And this, the absence of anger, is the essence of Satyagraha. Only the individual attempting to practice Satyagraha knows if they are doing so, or if they are simply protesting without violence. Satyagraha is an internal pursuit for the individual, and they are the only ones who truly know when it has been realised.